Hello. Hello to the people who are listening to the Ripples podcast. Hello if you're watching this on the YouTubes. And I would normally at this point say hello to the people joining us live, but we don't have a live audience with us today. However, I do have a guest with me, and I'm very excited today to be talking about a book that I learned about from Rachel, who lots of us know as Roach. And let me give you this fun setup, and then we will get to know Roach a little bit. Many of you know my full-time job is speaking and training, and way back in the early days of my speaking, I started hanging out every August at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and I would help out with this very cool. I used to call it an orientation, but technically it was a pre-orientation leadership program that was optional for first year students. That was not, I've never encountered anything like it. It's a magical several days. Students can opt in to attend, get to move in early, and experience a very intense, I would say, a cross between leadership conference and a orientation program. And it has elements of both, and it was magical. And lo and behold, there was a student who saw me speak there, whose name was Rachel, that we all know as Roach. And she then became an orientation or a safari guide, a leader, and kind of got to know me. And then she magically and wonderfully crossed paths with me again in a professional association called a NIRSA, National Intramural Recreational Sports Association. The campus rec folks is how I shorthand them. And she's been active in that organization for years. And that's one of the places that I get to go and hang out with people a lot. And we know each other. And she turned me on to this book recently. And I was like, oh, will you come talk about this book with me? So, Roach, thank you for spending some time with me.
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction and recapping the last 20 years very succinctly,
Yes. Um,
which is hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me, can you tell us just a little bit about your path and
Yeah.
how you got from there to where you are today, and where are you today?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, starting at Central Michigan, I fell in love with this leadership safari program as a freshman, as a first year student, and became a guide, as you mentioned. And so you trained me, which is just so funny to think about,
Yes.
but also amazing to think about. And then while I was at Central, I got really involved in recreational sports. I was a club volleyball athlete and became an e-board member. I worked practically every job at the Student Activity Center, which was our rec center, and then got involved in NERSA and fell in love with the field of student affairs and campus recreation.
Yes.
And so saw you speak a number of times at that conference and met Grendel at one of them.
Oh,
And yeah, I know.
yes. Good stuff.
And over the last, well, since high school, I've always facilitated. I've always done a ton of trainings because that's what we do in campus recreation.
Hmm.
And I started getting pulled away from being a director of campus recreation to do workshops and to speak and to do different things across campus and then other campuses. And then in the last year of my director's position, I started coach training with the Coactive Training Institute.
Hmm.
And I all of a sudden started getting coaching clients. And next thing I knew, I had this side hustle. And my wife, who's amazing, said to me one day as I was saying how overloaded I am with all this stuff, just go for it. Just go full time. You've got
Yes.
clients, you're
Interesting.
traveling, like
Yes.
do all these things.
Yes.
And so I left campus recreation almost 2 years ago and am now coaching full time and doing a little bit of what you do, speaking, keynotes, workshops. And now my office resides in a spare bedroom of my house in York, Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
That's
how we've ended up here, and
yes.
we rekindled our. I don't even know if it's a rekindling. Maybe it's an expansion of
Strengthening.
our
Yes.
relationship,
Yes. Yes.
strengthening.
Yes.
Yeah, because I reached out to you. I was challenged by my coach. I remember she asked me specifically, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? And the very first thing out of my mouth was, well, I'd contact Paul Wesselman and ask if I could pick his brain. That was the very first thing. And that was about 2 years ago, September of
No kidding.
2023. And so so here we are. We've had multiple conversations, and I'm always more fired up after each one of them. And one of the most recent ones was about this book. So that's how
Yes.
we got to be here. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's so awesome. So this book is called The Anatomy of Peace, and I am very curious. It's been out for a while, right? And I'm curious how did it appear on your radar? Like, how did you
Mm.
learn about it?
Yeah. Well, I am in the eighth month or nine month of a 10-month immersive international leadership program
Okay.
through the Coactive Training Institute. And this book is part of our curriculum. And so I was mandated to
Sure.
read it.
Sure.
And early on too, in like our third or fourth month, or second or third month. And so it has been a common theme throughout my leadership training over these last 9 months. And that's how I happened upon it.
And without going into too much detail, it was this one of 10 books, 5 books? Was it a major book? Was it one of several?
It's one of three books, four books, one of four books that's required. And there was a movie that was also required
Oh, interesting.
to watch. Yeah. And so those five things. And then, yeah, that's really all the reading
Got it.
over 10 months that we
Okay.
do. It's very experiential and putting
And,
this stuff into practice.
and
Yeah.
besides the reading that you had for this organization, would you say you read regularly? Like, do you read 5 or 10 books a year on topics? Is it more of a rare experience? I'm just a little curious to get in terms of context.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I'm this, I feel like unicorn in a way, and I'm sure there's other people out there where I love to read and I don't make time for it.
Got it.
And
Yes.
so and so what I did a few years ago was I was starting to read and listen to books more often. And then I had nowhere to go with what I was learning. Like I wanted to talk about it and process it. I'm
Preach.
so like you in that way.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
started a leadership book club
Oh,
with a few close colleagues, and there's four of us. Where I asked to actually take a little break while I'm in this program because it's so
yes.
intense. And
Yes.
but anyway, after reading this book in the spring, I brought it to my leadership book club and was like, "We need to read this book." And so my leadership book club, actually, I reread it. So I
You-
reread this. I've read this book twice now this
yeah.
year.
So you like
But that's
reactivated your leadership book club because
Well, no, this
oh,
was a couple years ago that I
oh, got it,
started
got it,
this
got it.
leadership book club because I was started reading more. And then as I got into this leadership program, I read this and then brought it forth to them. And so I've read it.
Excellent.
I read it twice this year. But yeah, I love to read. And if you can see my background, a bookshelf full of books,
Yes.
most of which I've read. Many are on the to read list. But I love to read. And over the last year, I've made more of a priority to bring it in
Excellent.
because I'm creating structures to talk about.
Can you do me a favor for those of us for people who are watching this, can you
Yeah.
hold up the book again? Because it occurred, yes. Resolving
Yes.
the Heart of Conflict is the subtitle, which I really like. And this is actually, I believe, the second book cover. Because I see it online with another
Yes.
book cover.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then
Hmm.
secondly, it, I was curious to just get a context of how much reading you do, and I am somebody who listens. There are some books that I need to read, and there are some books
Hmm.
that listening to is really the same. And there's a few books I do both, but when somebody says how many books do you read a year, I don't make a distinction myself. Well, I listen to this many. I'm like I think of that as consuming books. But I'm curious, it sounds like, at least in our previous conversations, that this book bubbled up as like a key book or a like, oh, and I'm wondering, just as a way for us as we dive into this book to say, and we'll get into the breakdown and the format of the book a little bit, but is there a reason why when you're telling somebody, oh, this great book is, do you know why this book just rose up? Am I right about that it sort of rose up for you? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first thing like I want to mention is I don't identify as a good reader. I don't read well for comprehension. I mean, even when I got tested and whatever, I like to read, but I'm a slow reader. And and in fact, a friend of mine was like, "Will you read this email for me real quick that I'm sending out to blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so I was reading it, and she's like, "Okay, so what do you think?" I'm like, "I just finished the first paragraph." She was like, "Oh my God, what? Like there's still 5 paragraphs." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need about 10 minutes." So I just want to like name that. Like I
Yes,
am
yes,
not
yeah,
like,
okay.
and so what I loved about this book is it felt very accessible for me, and it reads like a novel. And
Hmm.
so I love stories, and I love
Hmm.
storytelling, which I think is why I always enjoyed, you, and because you're very
Oh,
storytelling, like
yes.
when you
Hmm.
talk, right? And
Hmm.
I love that. And so I was able to just get into it and not have to reread a lot of paragraphs and pages because it held my
Yes,
attention and
yes,
whatever. So that was like one of the first things, was I was able to just get into it really
yes.
easily.
Okay.
The second thing is because the book paints a story, I could picture it. And I imagine, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I've been in that chair.
Yes.
And oh, I
Okay.
felt that. And
Yes,
so
yes.
it really spoke to me that way. And I think the way the book breaks down the concepts is it's really palatable. It's really oh, I could try that. I could put
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
into action, and then combine it with my leadership program. We are constantly coming back to, which we'll talk about, like, ooh, is my heart at war? Is my heart at peace? And so I
Oh,
had common language with people that
yes.
it just became part of our vernacular,
Hmm.
and so all of that combined made me really like it. And I had to fight the urge of being like, well, family member that I struggle with, you should read this book, and you should read this book, and one for you, and one for you, right? Because that's not
Yes.
what this is about. This book isn't about
Yes.
changing people, it's about
Yes.
changing ourselves.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what's so powerful, because that's really the only way we can create any changes, when we start with us.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good. So thank you. That was this is going to be such a fun conversation, I can tell. Shocking, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so the way I've described this book to folks, as I've been sort of evangelizing about it since you suggested it to me, is that it's a fictional tale. Like it is a story that is not factually true. The events that they describe, these people getting together, they did not really happen. Um, and and it's a structure that's clearly designed to teach the reader about these concepts that are taught to the characters in the book. And I was at first comparing it to Who Moved My Cheese and some of those books that were from a couple decades ago that were fictional stories designed to teach like leadership or workplace lessons. But then I realized that it's got a different spin in that it's not just a book where you're supposed to draw out the learnings from it. They're actually the characters in the book are teaching the lessons, and I think the easy setup that doesn't give away any of the plot of the movie or the story is that these these parents are showing up to drop their I would call it troubled teens, like teens who are part of families in crisis, and the teens are coming to this adventure camp type place. I believe it's set in Arizona, and
Hmm.
the parents are dropping their kids off to experience that. And oh, they need to spend some time learning from the people who run this camp a few things. And my my memory is that it's like over 2 days that they're listening to these lectures taught by these two guys who run the organization and
Hmm.
um who happen to who it's very central to the plot, who one is Jewish, one is Muslim. And so they present this story as all these families coming together are in conflict with each other, with members of their family. There's big stuff going on. And the background of the people, how did this camp come into being? How did these two people come? It allows them to then talk about larger conflicts that are happening in the world.
Hmm.
And they present this model they've sort of developed. Is
Yeah.
is that a good
And
capture?
yeah, I think that's a great capture. So most of the book is housed in this 2 day, we'll call it orientation or training for these parents.
Yes.
And then it kind of ends with like, okay, so So here you go. You've got these tools now, and you
Yes.
start to see the transformation of the people as they try on these different concepts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say that your liking what you've said in this in our conversation here so far has helped change my lens a little bit because I will confess that I was in to read this book because you so highly recommended it and the ideas behind it I was 100% in. I I resisted the fictional story a little bit, and it just seemed a little bit like the people writing it were wanting to share something with me, and they wanted to create a little set. I'm like, just give me the concepts. Like, I just want to know what you're saying. And so I resisted the fictional story a little bit, and some of the characters you're not supposed to like, or you're supposed to recognize that they have qualities that this model is going to help them point out. So it's a well-told story, but I started by not liking some of them, and I'm like, how am I supposed to care
Mhm.
about what happens? Because that I just want to strangle that person. And so I you helped me, like, I'm like, oh yeah. And when I'm reading fiction, I give myself fully permission to abandon a book after a chapter.
Mhm.
I will
Yeah.
when when Kindle came into my life and I could sample books, they would often send a sample chapter, and it was just it helped me give myself permission. When I read a first chapter, my question is, do I care about these characters, and do I care about what,
Mhm.
like, do I want to know what happens next? And
Yeah.
at the end of the kind of like intro round, do I care about these people? Not at all. I hate them. And do I want to know what happens? I'm like, well, kinda. I kind of want to see how are they going to learn, and how long is it going to take them to realize what a goofus they're being. And then there was some plot twists. There was some, because what I like about the story, and again, I want to preserve the story, for people to unfold. But what I like is that you think early on, or at least I did. I let me own it. I early on was sure that most of the application of the content was going to be about you helping this teen of yours in your life. And they really quickly, there was conflict in the room, and there was conflict in the world, and there's all these other conflicts, that it became a much richer tapestry of, like, of how we're going to apply these concepts.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said something that, well, first of all, many people I know, either in my leadership program or other people I've recommended, had the exact same reaction. Is like,
Oh,
just
good.
get to
I'm
the
not
freaking
alone.
point
Yes,
already. I don't,
make the
if I
point.
wanted
Yes.
to read fiction, I would read fiction. And side
Hmm.
note, I don't read fiction.
Mm.
I tried reading the Harry Potter
Classic.
books and I got to the fifth one and I'm like, I can't do this. This is just taking too long. And even though I love the movies and whatever, like I
Interesting.
don't do
Yes.
fiction.
Yes.
Every
Yes.
book back,
Interesting.
almost every book on my shelf back here is not fiction.
Yes.
And that's
Okay.
probably my own struggle with when I'm doing something, it needs to be efficient and productive. That's probably my own challenge. But anyway, so I don't read a lot of fiction. And the thing that I heard as a theme, even though these words weren't the words used when people said they struggled with this book, is kind of like you. It's like, get to the point, tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
This isn't a doing book. This is a being book. This is the book. Yeah. What just came up for you there?
I just felt like that needed a minute. That needed a moment of
Yeah.
to honor. This isn't a doing book. This is a being book. And I instantly had a yes to that when you said
Mm.
it, and I did not know that. Like,
Mm.
I that was not yeah, that was not on my bingo card. That was reaching that conclusion was not on my bingo card for our conversation. And I that's interesting. And I think I am reading most books that are in the sort of leadership development or productivity tools. It's maybe how you change your thinking,
Mhm.
but then how do you change your doing? And
Yeah.
you didn't say this isn't a doing book. This is a thinking book. You said this is a do, because I can appreciate that,
Mhm.
but you said being, and I was like, I don't know. You kind of ripped the rug out from under me for a second there. That's It makes a lot of sense. Was that your conclusion,
Yeah.
or did somebody tell you that? That's
No, that's part of my leadership training. And that's
Oh.
the program and my coach training is this idea of we're doers, right? Like especially leaders, we get done, we but what the book without, going into all of it, what I think the heart of this is this idea of it doesn't matter what we do if we're not being a way that feels really resonant for us.
Yes. Hmm.
And I am going to give I'm going to give an example of this. I don't know if you remember this. It's from the book.
Okay.
There's this part where um the instructor, the leader gives this story, and I'm going to use his story instead of mine because, well, no, I'll use mine because the people can read the book on their own.
Yeah.
So if my wife asks me to do something and I'm pissed that she asked me to do it, or something about it like sparks and I'm like angry, and I go do that thing like, hey, you left the patio a mess because I moved everything to work out and I didn't move it back, for example.
Hmm.
um and I get mad that she asked me because I was going to do it after my next call or whatever, right? And I go out there and I kind of stomp and I've got this energy of being mad and she doesn't trust it. I'm going to pick it up and da 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 da, whatever. And I clean it up, and when I come back in, she's like, "Oh, I see you got that done." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got it done." Right? And I'm okay, so my way of being
Hmm.
was angry, was frustrated,
Hmm.
whatever, right?
Hmm.
Whereas if I did the same thing and I cleaned it up after she asked and I came in and said, "Thanks for the reminder," my way of being, the rest of our evening goes very differently.
Hmm.
So it's not a matter of what we do. It's a matter of how we're being when we do those things.
Hmm.
And I think that is kind of the core of this book is your heart at peace or is your heart at war?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Very central. Early on in the book, we're presented with these sort of two options. Is your heart at peace? Is your heart at war? And they kind of unpack that. And I like that. At least for me, that just really intuitive. Like that didn't need lots of explaining, like, and the characters in the
Mhm.
book. Like as soon as you hear that, you're like, oh, I know what this feels like, even if don't know exactly what they mean by like, I can resonate with when my heart is like right now, is my heart at war or is my heart at peace about this certain thing? And um, I want your guidance on this, Roach, but I feel like so central, the sort of main concept, besides that terminology, heart at war, heart at peace, and that you get it when your heart is at peace, it's sort of like it takes care of a lot of what am I supposed to do in this situation? It's like if you get to that space, you're good. Is this box, this idea of in the
Mhm.
box and being out of the box, and that's so central and this is where I don't think I don't have any problem sharing the main concepts of the book because I think if many people listening to this may not actually pick up the book and the read. And my sense is you don't have to read this book to understand these concepts. How I don't know if you presented on this yet, but like, how would you explain the box and in the box and out of the box?
Yeah. I think to try to bottom line it is the box, a box, whatever is where we go when we betray ourselves. When we stop
Hmm.
seeing others as human beings. Because naturally, like when we're born and we see other humans as humans, and the second we make the choice, unconscious or consciously, to not see another human as a human, we go into one of these four boxes that the book talks about. And
Yes.
it looks like a lot of different things. The most common one I think is people think of better than, this better than box where I I'm let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. Like I'm superior, I'm important. If only they
Hmm.
just knew
Hmm.
what I knew or experienced what I experienced, right? We see other people as obstacles,
Hmm.
therefore objects.
Hmm.
We dehumanize them. It
Yes.
doesn't have to mean I'm calling them something. It's just when we see them as an obstacle, boom, instantly something that needs to be changed or they need to do something different, then that is in essence not seeing them as a human and therefore betraying ourselves and putting ourselves in these boxes.
Hmm.
That's my bottom line version
Yes.
of the concept.
And the better well, let's rattle through the opposite of the better
Yeah.
than box is the worse than box.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, what's interesting, what they have in common is you're doing this comparison, this judgment, and you're forcing somebody to has to be better. There's a hierarchy. Um,
Yep.
and then what other box? There's two other boxes.
Yeah. The need to be seen as box. And so this is where my view of myself is that I need to be well thought of or seen as something.
Hmm.
And so my view of others is that they're judgmental, they're my audience,
Okay.
they could be threatening maybe to my reputation or something like that. And then the other box is the I deserve box. And so my view of myself is I'm mistreated or I'm a victim, I'm unappreciated. And so therefore my view of others is that they are mistreating, they're ungrateful.
Hmm.
And really at the heart of a lot of this is assumptions, which we can talk about in a minute.
Yes.
But yeah, but that's so we end up in one of these boxes and all of them create space in our relationships between me and someone else. So for example, if I see somebody as having a lot of money, I'm in a worse than box a
Hmm.
lot of times because, oh, they're so privileged and they can do
Hmm.
whatever they
Hmm.
want or whatever because I grew up pretty poor. And
Hmm.
even though I'm like financially stable now and fine, like I still have this thing in my head that it's a habit or a pattern that puts me in a worse than box.
I
Or
assume
maybe
you
it's
can
an
be
I
in
deserve
multiple.
box.
I assume
Oh,
you can be in
yeah.
multiple boxes because right, because it
Yeah.
sounds like you're like hanging out in a bunch of boxes in that space. Yes, yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I deserve fill in the blank because I've worked hard and I have degrees and why am I not getting a promotion and whatever, right? So
Hmm.
now I'm in a
Hmm.
box and you can start to feel the tone as I talk about these different things,
Right. Yes.
right? Like what's going on in my heart, right? As opposed to being in a way that just sees the other person as another person and not making assumptions.
And in general, I think it's accurate to say that when you're in the box, one of the ways that you know you're in the box is if your heart is not at peace, your heart is at war.
Mm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
in general, if you're not in any of these four boxes, if you're out of the box, your heart is at peace.
Yeah.
And it's going to inform how you think about yourself, feel about yourself, how you engage with others.
Absolutely. Yep. That's it. And one of the things that we didn't talk about, like in the model from the book, is each box has view of others, view of myself, view of the world, and feelings and the different
Hmm.
feelings.
Hmm.
So whether
Hmm.
that's anxious, helplessness,
Hmm.
entitled, impatient, right? Like all those things kind of, if you're feeling those, it kind of points to like, ooh, there's something's going on for me. What I'm in a box or so, as opposed to like being at peace. So yeah.
Name those things that for each box there's what are those four things that you just
Oh
read?
yeah. View of myself,
Yes.
view of others,
Yes.
view of the world,
Yes. And then the
and
feelings that are
feelings.
that are associated with that
Yeah.
to sort of
Yeah.
help you. Yes. And that's because I remember now when I was looking at those because what I liked and didn't like about the book is that then they're sort of showing you what they wrote on the whiteboard and they're allowing you to see those images, which was helpful. And and then at times I was like, just show me these. I don't need to like the story around it. But I have to say I understood the concepts intellectually, but our conversation is certainly helping me understand them in a different way. And it is true also for me that some of the characters grew in ways that surprised me, and some of the reactions definitely, as they were exposed to these ideas and they let them sit, um, it was more satisfying than I thought it was going to be for me to kind of watch them grow, and a couple times in unexpected ways. Like there were I don't plot twist is a little bit too strong of a term, but there was like, oh, I did not see that coming, and that did keep the part of me that likes a good story. And I think storytelling is so powerful. there's two things in my head, I think, before our conversation is done, and we're hopefully all the people listening to this are going online and finding at least outlines and hopefully buying the book or listening to the audiobook. There's two other concepts. One is I don't think it's giving away too much to talk about the strategies for getting out of the box. Like I feel like there were some general, but if I say the pyramid, does that
Mm-hmm.
ring a bell? Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
yes,
the influence
like
pyramid. Yeah.
that for me is the thing that I was like, oh, I want to talk about that pyramid. So I don't know if it makes which of those things should we go?
Here we go. Yeah, let's go to the influence pyramid because at the very bottom and base is getting out of the box.
Okay,
So I
okay,
think we
good.
can we can
Yes,
like
yes,
go
yes, yes,
there.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
What? So,
And I
so
feel like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's good. No, what were you say? I feel like
I just feel like, side note, we need to make a disclaimer that you and I are not getting any money off of promoting this book.
and if you buy it today, you're going to
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes,
No.
I mean right. I think people know yes. This is a book that is out there. We are not connected to it. And
Mm,
it is interesting how I have not I have been telling people about this great book that really influenced. And there's some books that I get where I'm telling them, like, you have to read this, you have to read this. And I am still in this stage of, I really want to, the only quest I've had to get people to read it is so that I have somebody to process it with. And then
yeah.
and then it's sort of like, oh my gosh, I can process this with Roach and
Mm.
actually do it on the air. And so that is an awesome disclaimer. How would you, what is the pyramid? Like I love the pyramid, but I don't
Yeah.
remember like the setup.
Sure. So the idea is that, well, one of the concepts of the books and one of the things we so often do, especially as leaders, and I'm not a parent, but my friends who are parents say that they do a lot, is they go right to correction. They see
Right.
something that's
Yes.
bothering
Yep. Yep.
them,
Yep.
or that their staff or whoever is doing wrong, and they go right to let's correct whatever just happened. And
Hmm.
what the influence pyramid says is the very tip of the pyramid is is dealing with things that are going wrong.
Hmm.
And we actually need to spend the majority of our time in the rest of the pyramid helping things go right. And when I first saw that, I'm like, yeah, I know positive reinforcement, like that works better than whatever. But no, this goes a lot deeper than that. It goes a lot deeper. And so what the pyramid is like if the tip is correct,
Uh-huh.
there's a level right before it, right? That is teach and communicate. So, and what the book says is we can't correct. Like if we're stuck and correction isn't working, then we need to go a layer below. We
Okay.
need to teach and
Yes.
communicate
Okay.
and educate or whatever. And if while we're trying to teach and communicate, that's not working, then we have to go to the step below and start there, which is listen and learn,
Okay. Yep.
which Stephen Covey would probably say it's listen to
Seek for yes,
understand.
seek first
See,
to
right?
understand. Yes, yes,
See,
yes.
exactly, right? So same concept. And if while we're listening and trying to learn is not working, then we need to build the relationship more, which in my mind tries to start seeing the other person as a human.
Uh-huh.
And if we're struggling with that, then the pyramid says, well, you go to the level below, which is build relationships with others who have influence or know that person well and who care about them and see them as a human being. And if we're struggling with that, well, then we're in a freaking box. And we got to start with us and get out of the box
Ah,
and get a heart
okay.
at peace.
Okay.
Because if we can't see the other person as a human being, even though we're hearing these great things from other people,
Hmm.
that's kind of the idea. Well, then we gotta start with us. So basically, all the things, from teach and communicate all the way down to attaining a heart of peace, all of those are about helping things go right. And only then, after all of that, do we try to correct. That's what the
With
pyramid's
dealing
about.
with the things that are wrong. Right, right. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. So I fell in love with that pyramid. I think the in the box, out of the box stuff resonated with me as a way to conceptualize a common set of challenges that keep people not in the right place to deal with conflict. I think is how I would summarize that.
Hmm.
And it resonated with me as like a conceptual framework that I found useful. And then this influence pyramid, it not only was a conceptual framework that I found useful, but just this idea that this where we tend to go is towards the top of the pyramid. We think, oh, let's do
Yeah.
this. And the way you presented it too, I think was just such a clever way to do it because it just like this isn't where we should start. What about that? Well, what if we look at this? And if this isn't there yet, and it allow I don't know that it allows people to think, okay, if you want to start at the top, go for it. But this is why that might not work. And let's go just
Hmm.
one layer down. And the
Hmm.
reality is, I think really what we need to do is start at the bottom and work our way up. But that's just not how we are. That's not how we humans are. We like want to hurry up and do the thing. And I like that.
Yeah.
Is that how the book presented? Did the book start with the top?
Yeah, well, it showed that that's where we
Yeah.
typically start. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Because I think
Yeah.
because realistically, if you and I were designing I don't know, a leadership framework or a interpersonal skills workshop, we'd probably want to say, hey, the best thing you can do is build a solid foundation, and then you'll be ready for
Hmm.
this, and then you'll be ready for this. And
Yeah.
and and I think that it I think literally if somebody looked at this and said, let's start about how can we get better at getting out of the recognizing we're in the box and then working on getting out of the box. And then we will be able to build relationships with lots of folks. And then we can build a relationship with the person we're struggling with. And then we can listen and learn. And
Yeah.
and the problem is that's not that's not what we're doing. We're starting up there at the top. So just to
Yeah.
be able to gently say, okay, I know you want to correct, but let's just go down one layer. Teaching and communicate. Don't you think that's going to be more effective? Yes. Okay, in order to do that, don't we need to listen and learn? And I
Yeah.
think I think top down ends up being just a good way to present the model, even though really what we're encouraging is bottom up of this pyramid. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's why the book spends probably 70% of the time on the boxes, because that's all about like getting out of the box, having a
Hmm.
heart at peace.
Hmm.
And only then later does it introduce the pyramid. And what you're reminding me of is in my leadership program, we talk about we after reading this book, we talked about the old way of conflict, which is basically this, but it's reframed. So I'm going to offer that here, which is we start with agreement. Do we agree or disagree about an idea? And typically, what happens is if we disagree, then that's it. We
Yes.
don't talk.
Yes.
We don't have a
Yes.
relationship. We
Yes.
can't engage in
Yes.
conflict,
Hmm.
right? But if we agree, then we can try to understand each other more, and then we move towards acceptance. And what this model is saying, and what my leadership program is saying, is the new way or the coactive way is we flip that. We start with acceptance. You're a human being. I accept you and your humanity
Yes.
first,
Yes.
period.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
now let me try to understand you.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of now we're starting to work our way up the pyramid.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. Let's see where do we align? Like if you imagine a Venn diagram, where do we have overlaps? And only then do we talk about an idea that we agree or disagree with. And if we disagree, we still have humanity. We still can see where we're aligned in some ways. We can still have understanding. And ultimately, I still see you as a human being.
Hmm.
And that is what I think we don't do well, because we want to jump right to agreeing or
Yeah.
disagreeing,
Yeah.
right? But then we miss all those steps, and then we jump to try to correcting and whatever. So
Yeah.
anyway,
That's
that's
good.
that's part of this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And I think that I don't know if this is accurate. I really want to know if you can help me. If I'm going to propose this idea, we want to jump to solving this problem or this conflict, and in a more nuanced way than this, the pyramid in this book is saying before you can solve the problem, there needs to be this connection with this other person, and really before there can be this connection with the other person, there needs to be you need to be in the right headspace and heart space in order to have that connection, and we just want to, whether it's the conflict in the world, we're trying to fix all the polarization. We're trying to like, well,
Mhm.
what can I say? And a lot of times it's like, so they'll understand how stupid they're being or how wrong they are. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, let's slow down a little bit and let's talk about the relationship we have with folks on the other side or this person we're really frustrated with. And really, before we even get to how what we think of that person, what they think of us, how we're relating with each other, let's talk about where your heart is at and where your head is at. Because if it's not in the right place, engaging with others isn't even the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because well, the book calls it, what do they call it? Coercion. I can't even say the word. Like
Oh,
you're
yes.
right. And so what happens is when we engage with a heart at war, we end up just creating more of what we don't want.
That, yes, I forgot about that. That was a book that or that was a part of the book that really struck me as potent, that it took me a while to understand it. To me, it was a little bit complex, but it was so worth it to say. It's like when your heart is not the right place, when your heart is at war, you say you don't want to be in battle with somebody, but you actually, your actions, your thinking, your feeling builds a situation where you expand the very thing you don't want. And it had a couple examples, that they went down the scurry hole to kind of let you see this person says they want things to be better, but then they keep doing these things and they know better. Like intellectually, it's not like they hadn't figured out. It's like that I use internal family systems language a lot. A part of them
Yeah.
is working against that. And that really, yeah, that was a really powerful insight for me.
Yeah. And what I think, I think the book talks about this, but what I've noticed is that in certain relationships, it's just a pattern of ours and it's habitual.
Hmm.
And so this thing happens and I react this way, and then it creates this spiral. And what this book helped me do was start to gain awareness of like, oh, wow, that thing happened and it instantly sent me into a box and my heart at war.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm going to
Yes.
pause
Yes. Yes.
and stay with that discomfort. That's like a whole other book that we could talk about is the comfort crisis, like how just we're a society, we're really bad at being uncomfortable. And so like when we notice these things about ourselves or notice these things that make us uncomfortable, somebody getting angry or somebody being disappointed in us or whatever, we want to get out of that uncomfortable feeling, so we start doing and we start saying or whatever, and all most of the time we have a heart at war, and so we're just creating more and more and expanding what we don't actually want.
So you are clearly super excited about the concepts in this book. You have been motivated, besides the other assignments you had in this class and other things. This has risen above as far as how many minutes outside of class you're thinking about this book. It's really resonated with you.
Yeah, yeah, really. I would go as far as saying, and this sounds very dramatic, this along with my program, but these concepts have literally changed my life
Okay.
of
Wow.
how I wake
Yes.
up every day and how I
Wow.
engage with
Okay.
relationships, and then therefore that ripple effect. Yeah, no
What? What
pun
it
intended. Pun
ripples?
intended.
What?
Yeah.
What? What? So,
Yeah.
and would you say um that you catch yourself thinking, am I in the box or out of the box? Like that has that kind of thinking is going on inside your head. Like you're like, oh, I'm out of the box on this. That happens?
Yeah. Yeah, it just happened Friday night. I just had this moment, and I traditionally I would have ruined this beautiful night that we had planned, and instead I caught it. And
So
I
awesome.
noticed it
Yes.
was awesome. And I mean, I can get into that story if you want, but yeah, I caught it
Yeah.
and was able to just like take a beat and just do what I needed to do to keep my heart at peace. And then the night went on beautifully.
And
And it went on beautifully.
you weren't shutting down. You weren't like silencing yourself. You just you got out of the box and there wasn't a need for you to tend to the thing that yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that yeah, I think that was the piece I was really wanting people to hear, is that it was so clear to me in the last couple conversations we have where we weren't necessarily talking about this book, but you were just giving me updates on how things were, that it's just seeping into your way of being, way of leading, way
Mm.
of relating to others. And I I think I'm still at the stage where I'm really excited about these ideas, and I'm thinking, how is this going to impact how I teach interpersonal skill stuff, which is a big part of my training, the speaking and training
Mhm.
that I do. And I've got a couple relationship situations that are challenging right now, and it I have known without any more practice, I definitely know my heart is at war right now. I can't like
Mhm.
figuring out what to do is not going to be useful until I get a different place. And I've been able to dabble with getting um to a different place, but I think I need to spend more time looking at those boxes, looking at the signs, those four things, the feelings. What were the other three things besides the feelings? The
View of myself, view of others, view of the world,
oh,
and and feelings. Your thumbs up
yeah,
bubble just showed up.
exactly.
This is great.
Yes.
Okay,
And when
yeah,
I do this, it's not doing it now. The silly
that's okay.
fireworks thing tends to go off because I get excited and I don't even know how I create those.
I love
Um,
it.
I have a heart at war with my Zoom screen. No, not really. So as
Yeah.
we imagine trying to bring this in for a landing, if you will, and helping us find a way to, if this is the only thing that people are here, if they're not going to read the book, if they're not going to read any more about this, I'm curious. Do you feel like just having heard a little bit of this, would you say is there something that people could be trying to think about, feel, or do differently,
Mhm.
or even tweak their way of being that might help them get some practice or get a little taste of these concepts if they don't yet have time to go on a deeper dive?
Yeah. Great question. And what's coming up for me as you ask is I think when I notice, here's what I'd say. I think the book encourages people to stop trying to change others
Yes.
and start focusing on what we can change within ourselves.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking about like changing who I am.
Right.
That's not what
Right.
this is about. This is about like, ooh, wow, that really sparked this feeling in me, like noticing, having awareness. So much of the work you do, the here now, right? And the being
Right.
curious and
Yes.
open minds, like
Yes.
that's really what
Yes.
this is about,
Yes.
which is why I
Yes.
recommended it to you because it's all aligned. And I
Hmm.
think if we can just start to notice more, like, oh, that comment like really kind of was like a stabbing experience for me. Like, what's there for me? And what is it about? What's the impact that had on me? And then staying with it and noticing and not judging or reacting and waiting till we can get to a creative place and like a place of choice rather than
Hmm.
react like an
Hmm.
unconscious
Hmm.
choice.
Hmm.
That's what I think this book is really about,
Hmm.
is really like having that we have authority over our life and our relationships, and but it takes us changing. So I think like the book is about starting with us, and then
Hmm.
that absolutely, pun intended, has this ripple effect.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I
Yes.
have felt it and experienced it over and over again in the last 6 months. And that's
Yes.
what I think is really what I would encourage people to think about, is just when something happens, what's going on for me right
Hmm.
now, not them, because
Yeah.
my world is not about them
Yeah.
necessarily, right?
Yeah.
It starts with me.
Yes. I think that's so great. And that shift from trying to fix them, trying to change them to is there some way that I can tweak myself to change my thinking thoughts? I tend to thinking, feeling, doing. I'm really going to think about, do I need to add being to that? Like because that's
Mm.
just so powerful for me, what how you framed this earlier. And then I would add, I think it's also true, before you can change anything about yourself, you've got to notice the noticing part. And you included that in your statement. And I think if you think of that as you're out here, your instinct is to change other people. And this book is really saying, hey, good luck with that. Let's focus on what you can change about yourself. And by the way, before you can really start to change this, you got to notice where you're at. And my little mindfulness meditation teacher clicks in and saying, and notice non-judgmentally is not doing the, God, I'm screwing that up. It's like, oh, look,
Hmm.
I'm doing that thing. I'm really at a place, and without judgment, just really activating your curious mind. Wow, I really am in because that's where, if I can be in the box, and be aware that I'm in the box and not beat myself up because I'm in the box. I'm in this box. That is, I think, such a faster way to get out of the box than ew, this
Mm,
gross place that I'm where I'm incompetent, where I'm bad, where I'm not serving myself and others. It's like, wow, um, I'm in the box. I'm in
yeah.
this box, or I'm in a box. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because as soon as you do that, you start judging yourself, you just throw yourself into a different box. I mean, that's really like what happens,
Double boxing, triple
and
boxing,
but what
yes.
you just said, yeah, yeah, what you
Yes.
just said is so beautiful is that noticing. And if we can do more noticing without evaluation, judgment,
Yes.
voting,
Yes.
and then decide, okay, I noticed this. What do I want to do about it? Whoa, like what opens up for us
Right.
then?
Right.
And that's where I think true leadership stems from. That's where I think really healthy relationships stem from, is that we make choices from an empowered place rather than a fearful place or reactive place or whatever.
Mm.
And so, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's about that noticing. It really starts there. That's being present, being with
Yes.
ourselves, etc. Yeah.
Yes. I have this story in my head that it would be so interesting for us to, in 6 months or a year, have a follow-up conversation that we record to say and invite people who have read the book to like maybe do a Zoom where we have people on for Q&A and discussion, because I feel like you have a great command of this. Like, thank you so much for presenting these concepts, and the fact that it is so fervently already influenced your personal behavior and your professional behavior. And I still feel like you're just getting started. Like, I feel like you are going to be going places with this content, and I kind
Mm.
of want to check in with you in a year and say, how's it going and where is it going?
Yeah, I love that. And I welcome others. I think it's because I also want to like say this book has resonated for me and I'm seeing how it's showing up. And I have a lot of support with my program and with, colleagues and stuff over how we are putting this to practice. And that might not be true for everybody else, both the support and it resonating.
Hmm.
And I also believe there's like always something to learn and other perspectives are really helpful. So yeah, that would be super fun in 6 months
Yes.
to a year, whatever. And I have
Yes.
some presentations coming up with this book, and we'll hopefully be bringing some of these concepts to NERSA in the
Oh,
spring, which we talked. I'm
yes.
going to submit it
Yes.
as a proposal, and because I think if nothing else, what what you asked me, what I hope for people is that we just start gaining more awareness and have more noticing.
Yes.
And the more we can have hearts at peace, the better our relationships are going to be. And that is going to have a ripple effect. It
Mm,
absolutely will,
yeah.
right? Like if peace doesn't just happen out there. It's got to start somewhere. And the start is, gosh, I can't get off these puns, but the start is with us as the pebble or the boulder,
Yes. Yes.
right? And we jump in with that. And that's what I hope for people, whether it's with this book or not, is that they can
Yes.
start having a heart at peace.
Yes. Well, we're both wearing our You Rock shirts today, which is awesome. This mission, unleashing ripples of co compassion and kindness, has been the mission of the Ripples emails and the pieces we've been doing all along, that you have been a part of since the very early days. And a lot of folks that are listening to this will know that virtually all of my correspondence I close with the word peace, and that's been true for just about my entire, as long as email's been around. I've been signing off peace, and I think from the very first Ripples I always signed off the end of the weekly Ripples emails with the word peace. And this book has definitely advanced my understanding of what peace is, of what it looks like, of what it feels like. And I'm just so grateful for the ripples that you've unleashed in the world, including the ones that have impacted me, because there's been a lot.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Truly
Yes.
received, and I appreciate it.
Yes. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up our conversation and our time together. I will put Roach, I will put in the notes in both the YouTube where people might find this so that they're watching us, and also in the podcast, the Ripples podcast that will also push this out as an. I'll put how people can find you. But can you remind us again, if people are drawn to your energy and your ideas and your way of looking at the world, it sounds like they can hire you to be they can I assume follow you on socials. Do you post stuff a lot?
Yeah, I'm pretty regular. Usually at least once a week, if not a couple
Okay.
times a week.
Yes.
On socials. Yep, you can find me there. I have a website, and an email address. Still old school, with an
Yes.
email address. But
And
yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then you give presentations, you do consulting and facilitating,
Mhm.
and coaching is a part of your work.
Yeah, that's a big part of my work. I do one-on-one coaching, a lot of leadership coaching, but really just professional coaching.
Okay.
And I coach the whole person. So, yeah, people come to me for leadership stuff because they got this promotion or they want whatever. And
Hmm.
then we also end up talking about relationships and health because you're a whole person. So I do all kinds of professional one-on-one coaching that way
That's
too.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to let people know that, if they're drawn to you, there's ways that they can continue to be connected to you. And I know that it is for me, a great sign of a relationship is how two-way it is, the mutual
Mhm.
benefit. And there are times when our conversation is more like I've been speaking longer than you have. I'm ahead of you a couple decades in terms of my career, and you're asking me how can I do this, or how did you solve this issue? And there's so many times when we're talking about NERSA, when we're talking about these things that you're learning, where I am the student and I am so excited to learn from you. And I think I think it's just a really exciting way to be engaged with you, undergrad student, grad student, professional in the field of campus recreation, and now colleague. So it's so good to be connected to you.
Yes, it is such a gift, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, I feel
And
that too.
I will say that many times when we end our conversations, my heart is at peace, and that's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. You are such a boulder, I mean, like a mountain that gets dropped into an ocean, Paul, with the ripples that you create. You create
Mm.
these tsunamis, not in a deathly way, but it is.
Positive
We're
tsunamis.
exactly. We're
Yes.
so lucky. I say we as a community for you to have started
Mm.
this movement,
Thank you.
and it's so attractive and magnetic, which is what has kept me around for 20 years. So
Yes. Love
thank
it.
you. And thank you for just continuing to do what you do. It's so valuable. It's a gift.
You're welcome. Well, to everyone who is listening or watching, thank you for taking some time. You can find me at Ripples Guy on most places. And if you want to find Roach, I'll have those in the links as well. And we'll see you next time or listen to you next time on the Ripples podcast. Thanks for joining us.